Hey, Jim Roman here, national speaker and business coach, and I want to welcome you to the Jim Roman Show. Can you see me? Yes.
I can see you. Yes.
Let me ask you a question. What's more important, bringing in business? What's more important, bringing in business or getting the work done? The answer is both. Today, I want to talk about how to get through the stages of business growth. I specifically want to talk about stages 3, 4, and 5. Over this last couple of months, I've been seeing people having difficult challenges between what's more important, bringing in business or getting the work done. And the answer is they're both equally important. And I thought I'd shoot this episode to help you through those stages of business growth. If you've heard previous episodes on this very topic, we wrote an article on it on Broke, Beyond Broke, and Really Broke, the 9 stages of business ownership, that in the beginning of starting a business, the ownership owns you. Your business owns you. In later years, in bigger businesses, you own it. And there are struggles that you will face. And I believe that if you can uncover and discover the 9 stages to business ownership, you owning it versus it own you, then it makes a bigger difference. So I want to take a different approach in this episode of the Jim Roman Show to talk about the challenges that people face going through some of these stages, some examples of those challenges, and then how to solve those challenges. Because I don't know whether you're starting a business, growing a business, or succeeding in your business, but hopefully no matter what stage of business ownership you're in or what stage of managing your business you're in, these tips and tools will help you. As we go along this, please feel free to comment on anything that I'm talking about today. Please keep them positive because we're a positive community. If you're watching this after us doing it live, then please feel free to continue to comment. I'll be looking at this at a later date, making sure that I answer any questions and or challenges. So let's jump right into it. So there are 9 stages of business ownership, as I mentioned a moment ago, that in the early stages, the business owns you. In the later stages, you own it. Again, if you want to read that, go to my website at jimromanonline.com and click on the blog. And on the top there, we wrote an article, Broke and Really Broke, through the 9 stages. Today, specifically, I want to talk about stages 3, 4, and 5. Stages 3 is survival. A lot of people I come in contact in the community and my connections is they're in survival. Business is difficult, harder than they thought it was going to be. The challenge is you're running out of money. Stage 4 is what I call false stability. You're making money, which is great. You can breathe a sigh of relief, but if you stop, the business stops. Hence why it's not stable. It's falsely stable or false stability. And then stage 5 is growing, and then stage 6 is expansion. You can read more about that at jimromanonline.com. So what happens typically at stage 3, 4, and 5? So typically what happens at stage 3 is you have to figure out a way to bring in business on a regular, consistent basis. When you get to stage 4 or 3 to 4, you have to get the work done. And that seems to be the juggling aspect that I find a lot of businesses are facing in stage 3, bringing business in, stage 4, getting the work done, right? Bringing in business, getting the work done. Let me give you an example of this. One of my previous companies I was a publishing company. I used to sell advertising to put together hotel guest directories to put into hotel rooms. And I would make money off the advertising. And how I went about that is I would sell for a month and a half advertisement, make enough money to then take time to stop selling, to get the ads done, to put into the directory, to get this published, to put into hotel rooms. And while I was getting the work done, I wasn't bringing the business in. So like any business, if you're not bringing a business, cash goes down, money goes down, worries and anxiety go up. So I would then go back out to selling and bringing in business and then stop to get the work done. And I had what I call that roller coaster effect. While you're bringing in business, you're not getting the work done. And when you're getting the work done, you're not bringing in business. And that's typically what happens at stage 3 businesses between stage 4. So stage 4 people, when they get to a point where they're making enough money, but if they stop, the business stops. The challenge is how do you get the work done while bringing the business still in? And that is an animal that is very, very, very challenging physically and mentally and emotionally that I'll talk about in a bit. But again, stage 4 typically is how do I get the work done while still bringing in business? And that's a quandary for a lot of businesses because they're saying to themselves, how do I do it? How do I do it? What's more important? They're equally important. And they think that if I put one off for the other or this one off for the other, that it's going to solve itself. And it rarely, if ever, does. And then in stage 5, it's getting other people to get the work done freeing the owner and manager to be managing the business. And their biggest challenge is making sure the work is getting done by other people. And that in itself can be a challenge. And so these are some of the challenges at a high level that people face. Again, stage 3, you need to be bringing business in on a regular, consistent basis. Once you do that, you start to move towards stage 4, which is then getting the work done. But the goal with stage 4 is to bring business in while getting it done. And then stage 5 is having other people do the work, or other vendors and suppliers, software solutions to do the work, so that you're freed up to make sure business is coming in, getting the work done by other people. So hopefully that gives you a good overview of what happens. And there's more, obviously, that I can go into at a later date, or feel free to reach out to me via Messenger, email me. A great email to get me things like this is questions@askjimroman.com. Again, that's questions@askjimroman.com. If I'm not really addressing your challenge, or you have clarifying questions you'd like for me to cover in future episodes. So now that's a high level of what happens in stage 3, 4, 5 for the most part. So let's talk about some examples of what people have done, and then how can you solve for that? So bringing in business. In one of my previous businesses, I owned a BNI franchise, Business Network International. I owned a franchise in Central Virginia. And I got to a point as I was growing my franchise, growing the business, what I found happened was I was getting too much business. I was getting 3 referrals a day, literally 3, that's not an exaggeration, 3 referrals a day. And back in the day, I had a mentor, and what we were told is that when you get a referral, you handle it right away. It's like when you get a referral, it's like money in your hands. You treat it the same exact way. So I started getting 3 referrals a day, and I was just overwhelmed. And my first reaction was, I got to stop marketing. I think a lot of times when we get overwhelmed with too much business, the first knee-jerk reaction, the survival reaction is, oh, I got to stop marketing. And that's the last thing you ever want to do. You never, ever want to stop marketing, advertising, and or bring in business. Now, you may want to slow down your marketing, networking, and advertising, bringing in business stuff, but never, ever want to stop. I could probably do a whole topic on marketing, advertising, and networking, and how to do that effectively in the good times and the bad times, in the overwhelmed times. But ultimately, I knew to stop marketing was not a good thing, because then I would have that roller coaster effect I had in my previous business. So what did I do? I went to my mentor and I said, hey, I'm having a challenge. I'm getting too much business. What do I do? She says, well, you're going to a conference. Why don't you sit down with one of the directors and ask them how they would solve for that? And I said, okay, I'll do that. And I remember I sat down with Jerry Schwartz from Maryland. And Jerry, if you ever see this video, thank you so much for your advice. I don't think I ever thanked you again for giving me some guidance. And this is what Jerry said to me. Jerry said, find somebody to help you to manage the referrals. And I said, huh. He go on to say, find someone who's in network marketing, who maybe not making enough money and wants to make some money, and have that person filter and flush out your referrals. Let them pick the best of the best for their own chapter, and then put them into other chapters, the rest of those referrals. And I was like, okay, sounds like a great plan. So I got up with a person. Her name is Lisa. Lisa, if you ever see this video, thank you so much. It was a huge help for me back in the day. And Lisa would handle my referrals. She would vet the referrals, take the best of the referrals, put people into her chapter, and then put the other people into other chapters. And it was probably one of the best top 10 pieces of advice I've ever gotten in my career, because instead of stopping my marketing, advertising, and networking, I figured out a solution. I went from stage 3 on to stage 4 with that one idea. In other words, instead of stopping, I solved for that. And that advice that Jerry gave me, and the assistance that Lisa gave me many years ago, turned that into a 6-figure business that I was able to sell for a lot of money, to really focus in on this business now for the last 15 years. And so hopefully you can see in that example that I'm getting too much business, and the knee-jerk reaction was, stop, I can't handle anymore, versus, okay, I need to do something about this really quick. I was fortunate enough to go to my mentor and say, what do I do? And she suggested I talk to Jerry, or someone like Jerry, and I talked to Jerry, and Jerry gave me a solution. So how do you apply that to a stage 3 business? Is, first off, I think one of the best things you can do is to figure out how to bring in business on a regular, consistent basis. And most people don't figure out. They have stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. So if you can figure out a way to bring in business on a regular, consistent basis, and how to handle that business at the same time, I believe you go from stage 3 to stage 4. Now, mentally and emotionally, my experience in coaching tons of companies and getting through that, That's more of a mental issue than is a physical issue. What do I mean by that? Companies are getting to about $200,000 in revenue to $225,000 in revenue, 2 to 3 employees to 4 to 5 employees, respectively based on industry. You get to a point where you get at capacity, right? You have no time you're trying to bring the business in while getting it done, and you feel the pressures of that. But I believe if you push mentally, emotionally, and physically through that, and you go to $250,000 in revenue, you continue to bring in business, then you break through that barrier onto better and bigger things, stage 4 and stage 5. And so I would highly recommend, if you're having this experience right now, mentally, emotionally, physically, and you're in stage 3, you're at $200,000 in revenue, you're trying to get to $250,000 to $300,000 in revenue, and you just painfully can't do it, please reach out to one of our certified business coaches. Reach out to me. I would love to set up a complimentary consultation for you to work through this. No cost, clearly no cost. I'm not going to sell you. I'm just going to serve you. Now, if you want to buy from me, that's on you. But ultimately, my commitment to you is to show you how to push through those barriers of going stage 3 to stage 4. Another thing you can do to go to stage 3 and stage 4 is to look at your target market. And looking at your marketing message. So often, the reason why people get stuck at stage 3 is they're not bringing business on a regular, consistent basis. But the second reason is they're not targeting the right market. In other words, when you start off in business, you'll take anybody for the most part, anybody who will buy from you, right? But there are so many people who need and want your services, but they won't pay for it. Again, I'll say that again. There are people out there that need and want it, but aren't willing to pay for it. And you keep on presenting to these people and prospecting these people. And that is the reason why you get stuck at stage 3. I believe that if you have the right marketing message, you will attract the right people that will not only need and want, but will even buy from you. That could be a whole episode on that, is creating a marketing message, how to figure out the right target market to be able to build your business. But I just share this with you because some of you, you know how you're bringing in business, but you're not bringing in the right type of business. I remember years ago when I was talking to somebody, they're looking to hire us, and I asked them what their biggest challenge is. They said, bringing in business. I said, okay, bringing in business. Is it that you're having a problem getting in front of people? Yes. Or is it getting in front of the right type of people? Oh, yes. Or is it getting in front of the right type of people who are willing to buy? They're like, Jim, all of the above. And I think that's important. I joke, but yet I'm serious, is that you can get in front of people, but if they're not the right people and not willing to buy, then we need to do something about it. So for some of you in stage 3, trying to go to stage 4, again, trying to go from 100,000 to 200,000, 200,000 to 300,000, or even 600 to 700,000, you may want to take a look at your target market. Are they making you money? And I'll give you a third example of this. And it goes back to how you can go from stage 3 to stage 4, is knowing your numbers. We were working with a contracting company years ago, and that contractor was going after anybody. Right? If you needed a small repair, he would go do it. If you needed a deck repair, he would do it. You needed a deck built, he would do it. You needed remodeling, he would do it. And he would go out and go after anybody. And when we started knowing his numbers and what his average sale is based on what he needed to make to be able to pay his bills and pay his people, we found out that his average sale, if I remember correctly, was $1,000. And based on his revenue at the time, he needed to do at least 22 jobs a month to be able to hit his numbers. And he's like, there's no way I could do 22 jobs in just a month. There's no way. So we took that $1,000 average sale and we looked at seeing how we can make it a $3,000 sale. Instead of doing repairs, do remodeling. Instead of repairing a deck, building a deck. Instead of fixing windows, installing windows. So taking your average sale of $1,000 to $3,000, he needs a third less deals. He needs a third less prospecting appointments. And ultimately, when we did the math, he said, that I can do. And because he thought he could do it and knew he can do it, he went and did it. He did it. And so that makes a big difference from going to any stages, is your target market, your average sale, believing you can do those sales makes the biggest difference. Just an update on that story. Years later, I was working with another contracting company, and they had the same philosophy. We're going to help anybody, any size, any need, any want. And I was telling this contractor that I don't believe that's the right thing to do. And she said, or our corporate headquarters says we're supposed to do that. And I'm like, I hate to say it, but your corporate headquarters are wrong. I mean, I just feel in my spirit, and it's just wrong. And I felt bad saying that, because who am I to tell them that they're wrong? But I had to call Chris. I called Chris up, this contractor that I'm referencing. And I said, Chris, hey, Jim Roman, I'm so sorry I haven't stayed in touch with you. Please forgive me, but can I ask you a quick question? Back in the day when we were working with you, going from micro to millions, could you share with me what the deal you needed, the average sale you needed before you left the office? And he said $433.16, just like that. I go, what? He goes, I know that if I leave my office for any quote, for any activity, with the truck expense, the guy expense, insurance expense, it cost me literally to get in my truck and go across town to look at any job, to do any job, $433.16. And if this job is not going to be a minimum of $433.16, we do nothing with it. We just say, sorry, we can't help you. And that's going even deeper into the numbers. That's beyond the average sale. This is just know the cost of doing business. And so to sum up the stage 3 and move on to stage 4, if it were me and I were you, the things that I would be thinking about to be able to push past stage 3 to 4, the business owning me versus me owning it, is number 1, figure out how to bring business in on a regular, consistent basis. Number 2, which I haven't talked about, but I've talked about in the past, is finding out strategies and tactics that you are willing to implement. And I highly recommend people having 8 to 10 strategies for bringing in business on a regular, consistent basis. Why 8 to 10? So you can find those 2 to 3 you're willing to do on a regular basis. For some of you, you're not going to the next level. Isn't because you're not bringing enough business per se. It's because you're not doing enough marketing, networking, advertising, and creating raving fans to bring that business in. Third, knowing your target market, knowing your numbers, targeting people that not only need, want, but are willing to pay for those services. So in short, if I was stuck in 3 and trying to go to 4, one of the first things that I'd be doing is those strategies and tactics to bring business in, the right type of business in, on a regular, consistent basis. And if you do that, you'll push towards stage 4. And your biggest challenge will be getting the work done. So let's talk about that. Those people who are in stage 4 and how you go about getting the work done. We've talked in previous episodes. I've even blogged about this, about getting the work done. Again, go to my website at jimromanonline.com. Click on the blog section. There's several subjects on this block timing, getting work done. One of our latest articles is letting go to grow, using other people. But one of the biggest things we talk about is creating a block calendar. A lot of times when you start off bringing in business, you don't worry about your schedule. You'll sit down with anybody at any time. And because you're willing to do that, you don't worry about your schedule. But then you get to a point where you start to get at capacity. So often it comes down to your block schedule or how you manage your time and activities. I'll give you a perfect example. Many, many years ago, I was asked the question, Jim, what do you see your business looking like in the future? And I said to them, I envision me having 300 coaches around the country, coaching companies from going from micro to millions, whether that's going to $250,000, $500,000, or $1 million or more, while having a life. And I would spend my Mondays calling those coaches to check in on how they're doing with their clients to make sure they're getting those results. And I go, oh, cool. And he said to me, the schedule you have now, would that be the same schedule you would have in the future? And I went, no, it wouldn't. If I had 300 coaches around the country, that would be a lot of coaching calls I would have to be making. So no, I would have a totally different schedule. Huh. And that was it for the most part. We had lunch and we moved on, but I never forgot that question. Fast forward a couple of years later, I'm building my business. I think I had 40 coaching clients at the time. We're running masterminds, fast tracks, master tracks. You think of it, we had it running at some point, a portion of our time doing that. And I hit a wall. I finally got to a point where I had not a single minute in my time. I had no time to get the work done. I had too much work coming in. And one of my coaches said to me, maybe you need to revisit your block calendar. And I'm like, nah, it can't be that. I mean, I literally don't have an extra minute to spare. How moving pieces and parts around would make the biggest difference? I don't see it. They go, oh, how's it working out for you now? I'm like, it's not working out for me now. So I sat down and I rearranged my block calendar from what it used to be to where it went to that second phase of block calendaring. And interesting, just moving certain things in a certain way and blocking them in a pattern way, all of a sudden I had more time to get the work done, to bring in business. And so for some of you in stage 4 or 3 to 4, you haven't really updated your schedule. You haven't updated how you get things done. And that's the reason why you can't get things done, let alone bring in business at the same time. I won't go further into block timing because I've talked about that in the past, but if you want any of those resources, reach out to me, email me, message me, comment below. I'll follow up with you, or one of my team members will follow up with you, some of those resources and or links to that information. But what I really want to talk about is getting the work done is when you get it done. So you bring the business in to get it done. What you want to be able to do is to make sure that you have time for getting that done. I think a lot of times we get stopped is because we worry about what's not happening, or we worry about what's going to happen. I'll give you an example. Back in the day, going back to my block calendar, I used to have Thursday mornings blocked off called do whatever I want to do time. Every Thursday morning from 6 to 10, I blocked it off, and nothing, I repeat, nothing got scheduled there. Why? Because over time, as I would bring business in, get the work done, I would have to work weekends. And I didn't want to work weekends anymore. So I figured out, how can I stop working weekends? Well, I need to get the work done sooner. And so instead of working on weekends and getting done what I need to get done, I blocked out Thursday mornings to get things done. I didn't realize how valuable that time was until I filled it up and got involved in a BNI chapter, a networking group. And it happened to be Thursday mornings. And all of a sudden, I joined the group. Months later, all of a sudden, I started getting stressed out again. I'm going, why am I stressed out? It's because I don't know when I'm going to get things done like I used to. I used to use that time. I didn't realize it was to plan out what was going to get done when. And because I knew when it was going to get done, I didn't have to worry about it or think about it. Right? And so I think a lot of times we get stuck mentally because we're thinking about what's not getting done, what we need to get done. By blocking it out, then we can put that aside and worry about that later. For example, my schedule now is on Mondays and Tuesdays, I do coaching calls. Wednesdays and Thursdays, I do prospecting related activities. And Fridays, I do nothing schedule-wise. I do follow-up Fridays. If I follow up on Fridays, follow up on anything I need to get done, follow up on any phone calls I haven't made, follow up on any coaches I haven't heard from, follow up on any clients I'm concerned about. That's my time to care for my time. So a lot of times, the reason why we get stuck between stages 3 and 4 is, one, we're not bringing up business in stage 3, but we don't know when we're going to get what done when, and that makes one of the biggest difference. And I think one of the things that took me to the next stage was just blocking my time when I was going to get things done, when I was going to think about things done, when I was going to work on my business versus just in my business. Is there anything else I could say about that? I think the other thing about getting the work done in stage 4 that pushes you to stage 5 is thinking about who or what you're going to do next to hire or to get things off your plate. I think a lot of times what people do in stage 4, they're not thinking about stage 5 because guess what? They just got out of stage 3. They're now breathing a sigh of relief in stage 4. And now they're like, okay, they're not thinking about stage 5. They're worried about today. And I think thinking about stage 5 and what's next for you will give you the excitement, the momentum, the inspiration to get done more quicker. And what do I mean by that? So typically when I get the stage 4 companies, again, false stability, they're making money, but if they stop, the business stops. I ask them this one key question. If we were to double your business today, what would bottleneck? And I don't care what stage you're in any of the 9 stages, this one key question can make the biggest difference for some of you right now listening to this, watching this video. And that is, if I doubled your business today, what would bottleneck? What would break? Think about it. People have said to me, if I double my business today, my invoicing would break, or getting the work done would break, or my contractors couldn't handle it would break. In the mortgage industry, it would be I couldn't get the paperwork done. And so I would say, what would be a solution to that problem? And they haven't thought about that. And for a lot of times, it's hiring a part-time assistant. I have an assistant for scheduling. I have a team member for copywriting. I have a team member for accounting. Some of those are direct employees, direct staff, and some of those are contracted staff. But what I realized is that in stage 4 to go to stage 5 is to figure out who you're going to hire next or what you're going to do to handle getting the work done next. That gives you that excitement and that hope beyond your circumstances. So what's an example of this? Another example of this. For example, again, I'll use myself as an example. If I doubled my business today, my biggest challenge would have been in the past scheduling. So I use Calendly software to schedule my appointments. The second thing that would break down if I doubled my business was my client care notes. So I hired an assistant to handle my client care notes and my schedule. And then the third thing that would break down is getting out my email communications. Again, my assistant does my email communications as it relates to our our monthly newsletter. That I used to do all of that. I used to schedule my own appointments without Calendly and without my assistant. I used to do my own client care notes meaning typing up my notes after every coaching session. I used to confirm my appointments with my clients, and I used to do my email newsletter. For the most part, I had somebody else do that back in the day. But I was doing all that. And if I'm doing all of that, I can't bring in business. If I'm doing all that, I can't have a life. And so I think part of stage 4's challenge is looking past what are you going to get off your plate in the future. If you figure out what you're going to get off your plate in the future, come up with a plan to get off the future, and more importantly, figure out how much it's going to cost to get it off your plate in the future. That gives you the motivation, inspiration, and drive to go on to stage 5. So let me sum up where that, because I'm just thinking this out loud in the sense that you're bringing in business, then you need to get the work done. You're bringing in business to get the work done, and getting it done by other people, which is stage 5. If you start to paint that picture, visualize that, have a strategic plan around that, I think that makes the biggest difference. If you don't have a strategic plan, I highly recommend you get a strategic plan, because it'll make the world of difference. In fact, we'll be talking about that next week in our live. So you can look throughout our YouTube videos here to see that live if you read this or watch this later, or you can go to our products page on jimromanonline.com, our programs. You can purchase it through that. But ultimately, planning out your future, planning out your people, planning out your processes will make the biggest difference. So again, finally in this stage 4 section of it, looking at what you're going to get off your plate next, thinking about that and can't wait to do that, and putting the math to that makes the biggest difference. So I want to finish up with the last piece of the puzzle, and that's stage 5. Stage 5 is starting, you want to start to grow again. So you're in survival stage 3, false stability stage 4, and then stage 5 is growing, starting to grow. You want to grow again. In other words, in stage 4, you breathe a sigh of relief that you made it, but you realize if you stop, the business stops, so that's not a good thing, but you still need to rest a little bit, but don't rest too long. Then you move the journey. Going back to the 9 stages that I talked about, there's these mountains that we talked about, and there's a whole article on the subject. As you get up to the stages here, you'll see at stage 4, you're at this mountain peak. And at that mountain peak, you're breathing a sigh of relief because you're like, oh my God, I made it to the top. No, you made it to the top of the first mountain. There's another mountain after that. And so you need to be able to bridge the gap, to not go down in that crevasse, to go to the next level. And so stage 5 is getting other people to be doing the work that you're not doing. One of the things I like to say to my organizations is go for green. When you're looking at your organizational structure, your organizational chart, how many of the positions are you performing? And how quickly can you get yourself out of as many positions as possible? Because the less you do, the more valuable your business becomes. The less you do, the more of a life you can have. And stage 5 is to start to do that, to start to figure out who can do what softwares and solutions are out there that can do the work for you so that you can grow. You also at stage 5 want to start to look at, again, at your target market, your average sale, who you're going after, so that you can find people that not only need and want, but can buy even more or bigger, because at stage 5, you have more needs and wants at that level. So stage 5 is putting together another org chart as what you want it to look like in the future, putting your name in the positions that you currently perform, and then figure out how to get out of those positions as soon as possible to be able to free you up to do the things you love to do in the business, free you up to do other things in the business, or free yourself up to mentor people in your business. And I think that's a big thing for people in stage 5. They're not looking about stage 6, expansion. They're not thinking about that because they're just too focused on the day-to-day activities. So I want to finish up by again, encouraging you to comment below, send me emails, message me any questions, challenges I may not cover. But I just love doing these live events to be able to add more value, to hopefully you build a better business, to build a better life. Now, I know that each one of you have different situations, you're in different industries, you're in different parts of the world, and I get that. And hence, I want you to comment below. I want you to reach out to me. I really want to be able to help you implement what we're teaching you. As I always say, knowledge is not power, it's knowledge that you implement that makes the biggest difference. So let me recap what we've talked about today. And by starting off by asking the question again, what's more important, bringing in business or getting the work done? And the answer is both. And I know some of you out there are perfectionists, you're control freaks. You believe that other people can't do it as good as you. And I would say that if you have that philosophy and that mindset, then you're going to stay where you already are. But if you start to think of this differently from a stage 3, 4, 5, bringing business in on a regular, consistent basis, getting the work done, getting the work done by other people, to include helping you bring in more business. I believe you'll go from being owned by your business versus owning your business. You'll go building a better business so that you can build a better life. So I want to thank you for joining me on this journey of doing these lives. I hope that you're getting value out of it. I would love to hear from you. I've heard some great responses up until this point. Some people have shared with me that this is very inspirational. It's exactly what they needed to hear. But also, I want to go deeper dive in some of the challenges that you are specifically facing, whether you're a chiropractor, a web developer, a property manager, a mortgage person. I know it can be difficult and challenging. I remember working with a mortgage company years ago, a gentleman, we'll just call him Bob. And Bob came to me and said, Jim, I can't hire somebody. I don't own the company. And I said, you don't have to own the company to have an assistant. And he says, you don't understand, but I don't own the mortgage company. I said, I know that, but I believe everyone should have assistants or an assistant in some form or fashion. I talked about this in previous episode. Long story short, a year later, he calls me up and he said, I finally got myself assistant, and I finally realized what you were trying to teach me, that if I have an assistant do the things I don't have time to do or I don't want to do, it frees me up to do the things that I love to do, and that is working relationships with realtors. Or in the property management industry, so often how you organize your property management business makes the world of difference, whether it's going to be portfolio-based, pod-based, department-based, division-based. It comes back to, how do you manage a business? I mean, managing a business and your management style makes a big difference. I kind of like a hybrid of each one of those things, and having a portfolio-based, property management-based piece of the puzzle, but then there's other pieces that help that property manager and that portfolio piece of the puzzle, so that no one gets burnt out and no one gets overwhelmed, but everyone has their roles and responsibilities, but ultimately the one person has the main responsibilities. And so whether you're in stage 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, I would love to hear from you. I want to make a bigger difference, to make a better life for everyone now and in the future. So again, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Again, I'm Jim Roman. The more you know, the more we grow. Thank you so much. Have a great day. See you next time, and have a wonderful week.